The Moving Coffins of Barbados, 1980s. In the Christchurch Parish Cemetery in Barbados, there's an old sealed tomb known as the Chase Vault. But this isn't just any burial site, it's one of the strangest paranormal cases in history. Every time the vault is opened to add a new coffin, something disturbing is found. The heavy lead coffins inside have moved. Some are flipped upside down, others are stacked against the walls, and there are no signs of forced entry. Creepy, right? But it gets worse. Some believe the vault is cursed. In the 1820s, the governor of Barbados ordered the coffins to be removed and buried elsewhere. Since then, the tomb has remained empty and undisturbed, but the mystery of how those heavy coffins moved on their own remains unsolved. The spontaneous human combustion of Henry Thomas, 1980. In South Wales, firefighters respond to a call at a small house. Inside, they find an elderly man named Henry Thomas, burned to ashes. But here's the terrifying part. Nothing else in the room is burned. His slippers are untouched. The furniture is fine. It's as if he simply ignited from within. No accelerants, no signs of foul play, just a pile of ashes where a man once sat. Investigators ruled it as death by burning, but couldn't explain how it happened. Some believe it was a case of spontaneous human combustion, a terrifying and unexplained phenomenon where people allegedly burst into flames for no reason. The disappearance of the Sodder Children billboard, 1980s. Since Christmas Eve, 1945, the Sodder family had been searching for their 5 missing children, who vanished after a mysterious fire destroyed their home. For decades, they kept a billboard up in Fayetteville, West Virginia, displaying photos of their lost children and begging for answers. Then, in the 1980s, something eerie happened. A photo arrived in the mail showing a young man who looked eerily similar to one of the missing boys, George Sodder Jr. The back of the photo had a cryptic message, hinting that the children were still alive. Despite renewed investigations, the mystery was never solved. The Sodder family passed away without ever learning the truth, and the case remains one of the most unsettling disappearances in American history. The mysterious hum, 1989. It starts as a low droning noise. At first, only a few people in Taos, New Mexico, notice it, but then more and more people report hearing it, an eerie, mechanical hum that never stops. Doctors check their ears, scientists study the frequencies, but no one can figure out what's causing it. Worse, some people report getting sick from the noise, experiencing headaches and dizziness. The Taos hum remains unexplained. Some believe it's caused by underground military activity, others think it's a natural phenomenon. But to this day, people in Taos still hear the hum, an invisible, relentless sound that refuses to go away. The haunted toys are us, 1980s. In Sunnyvale, California, employees at a local Toys R Us store start experiencing strange events. Toys move on their own, lights flicker, cold spots appear out of nowhere. Workers report hearing whispers and footsteps when no one is around. At first, people dismiss it as imagination, until customers start seeing something chilling. A tall man in old-fashioned clothing standing in the aisles, only to vanish when approached. The legend spreads. The store is haunted by the ghost of Johnny Johnson, a 19th century farmhand who allegedly died on the land before the store was built. Paranormal investigators, including the famous psychic Sylvia Brown, conduct a seance inside the store and claim to make contact with the spirit. Despite the ghostly rumors, the store remained open for decades, with employees and customers continuing to report eerie experiences. In 2018, the location shut down, but some say Johnny never left. Today, the land remains vacant, with locals still convinced it's one of the most haunted spots in California. The disappearance of Don Kemp, 1982. It's November 16th, 1982. Don Kemp, a former New York ad executive, suddenly disappears in the Wyoming wilderness. His car is found abandoned on the side of the road, with his belongings, including an unmailed letter, scattered around. Authorities search the area but find nothing. Months later, his skeletal remains turn up miles away, in an area that had already been searched. Even stranger, his mother starts receiving eerie phone calls from someone claiming to be Don, after he was already dead. To this day, no one knows what really happened to Don Kemp. Some believe he wandered off and died of exposure. Others think he was murdered and his body moved later, but the phone calls? They remain one of the strangest unsolved mysteries of the 1980s. The Max Headroom signal hijacking, 1987. It's November 22nd, 1987. Chicago residents settle in to watch the evening news when suddenly the screen flickers. The broadcast is hijacked. Instead of the usual news anchor, a bizarre figure in a rubber Max Headroom mask appears, his voice distorted, his movements erratic. For nearly 90 seconds, the masked intruder rambles in gibberish, makes cryptic statements about television networks, and even exposes himself before the screen suddenly cuts to black. Minutes later, he interrupts Doctor Who on another station, this time even more deranged. Despite an intense FBI investigation, the identity of the hijacker remains unknown to this day. Many believe it was an inside job by a rogue technician. Others think it was a prank that went too far. But whoever was behind it, no one ever got caught, and the mystery of the Max Headroom incident lives on.